Hi guys, I am Nobu Kumalo. If it's your first time here, welcome, and if you're coming back, welcome back. Hope your week is going great. I am out at camp this week and it's something that I absolutely needed. And actually in one of the conversations with one of my churchmates who I at camp with, something came up and it prompted me to do this video for this week. So she was telling me that she's starting a new job, and she was asking how I've handled it at my job, the issue of the Sabbath. So for some of you who don't know, I am actually Seventh-day Adventist, which means I observe the Sabbath from Friday sunset up to Saturday sunset. So I then told her that when I started my job, I told them that I am unavailable from Friday sunset to Saturday sunset, and that if there's any work that I need to pick up, any leftover work, I'm happy to do it on Saturday evening. So some of you might wonder, how is that anyone's business? Well, in my field, I'm a lawyer. For some of you who don't know, the hours can get really long, especially in the winter. The sun sets around 4 p.m. so obviously that's way before the time we knock off. And in the summer, it's a bit better because the sun kind of sets at 9 at some point. So as busy as we are sometimes on Fridays, we're not necessarily working at 9 p.m. So I was telling her that it's important that when you then tell them where you stand, you set very clear boundaries and you stick to them, because people only respect your boundaries as far as you respect them. And that's where the thought to do a video on boundaries came from, right? So I was telling her that make sure that you communicate clearly and that you never ever compromise on that, because if on one day you stay 5 minutes past sunset, they will not respect your Sabbath, and they'll think, okay, so this is a Sabbath thing that can be can be flexible, can be tempered with here and there, and you will not be able to stand up for yourself and justify why you can't push another 30 minutes next time. So it's important that when you set it out, especially as far as the Sabbath goes, you tell them that it's a no-go, there's no compromise, there's no flexibility, there's no push, there's no room for any compromise when it comes to that. And so it got me thinking again, boundaries. I had been thinking about this for quite a while. When I started YouTube, I decided to open up my Instagram account, make it a public account, because I felt like that is one way that I could, have more reach and more people find me and be able to follow me and engage with me. But then something happened. Well, before that something happened, I was kind of feeling a bit anxious about it after a couple of weeks, because I started feeling like I had a lot of people who, yes, on YouTube they'll benefit from the videos that I make, the information that I share, the value that I add to them on YouTube, but really on Instagram I don't add any value there. Like, I do not put out any videos on Instagram. It's literally just my photos of me visiting different places, sometimes photos of me with people that I love that have nothing to do with the value that I add on YouTube. And so I was starting to feel a bit uncomfortable with having so many people have access to those intricate photos and get to know my circle and my family, sometimes people who haven't even consented to being known by the bigger public. But then another specific thing happened, is that a few weeks back, I got a friend request on Facebook, and it was actually from a person called Lisa Kumalo. And lo and behold, it had my profile picture as the profile picture, and another one of my pictures as like the, what do they call it, wallpaper. I've forgotten what they call it on Facebook. I got onto that page, I saw they'd uploaded quite a few of my photos which they took off Instagram, and they'd used them to create a fake profile on Facebook. And yeah, they're pretty much impersonating me. And obviously I tried to report to Facebook, but Facebook is useless. They pretty much said this person hasn't broken the guidelines. And for me, that was it. That was literally the sign that I needed to be like, okay, boundaries. I am sorry, I'm gonna have to put up some boundaries in terms of between my personal space and my YouTube space, my personal space and the space that I allow people to see, the access that I allow people to have towards me. And so unfortunately I had to remove quite a people from my follow list, because I didn't know who it might be who did that, right? It was an open profile. Lots of people had followed me, people I don't know about and I don't know of personally, so I had to remove quite a few people. And if you're one of them, I'm sorry, but for the sake of protecting myself, protecting my family and my loved ones, it was very important for me to remove people from a platform where they can take my photos and abuse them. I think that's the other danger with social media, is that it has given us so much access to people. I've seen, luckily I'm not a celebrity or anything like that, and I'm lucky that as much as my profile was open, I didn't have people poking their nose in my business that much, or giving side comments or asking questions they shouldn't be asking. But I find a lot of influencers and celebrities and all that on Instagram especially, always complaining about, oh, please don't give solicited advice, or please stop asking things like how, when are we having kids, or please stop, demanding that we tell you about ABCD, or demanding that we show you about ABCD. Just because we share certain information doesn't mean you're entitled to the rest, right? So social media has put us in a place where we feel like we deserve to know what's happening in people's lives. We feel like we deserve to have a say in how they do their things just from behind the screen, just from the click of a button. That's just how easy it has become to access people's lives. And because of that, people don't respect each other's personal space anymore, I find. And people feel entitled to a lot of things that really have nothing to do with them. And so this brings us to boundaries, right? Setting boundaries. So obviously, as always, I did my research about, how do we set healthy boundaries. So in my research, this is what I found out to be practical ways of how you can set boundaries and make sure that people actually respect them. So number one is to be assertive, right? And like I said from my first example, you need to be clear about where you stand, be clear about the line and how far people can come is close to the line, and where it stops and where no one else can cross. So if your boundaries seem a bit flexible or seem a bit like there's room for negotiation, people will never respect them. So if you're setting a boundary, be assertive about it and make it clear that it's a non-negotiable boundary. Number two, learn to say no. This is something that I sometimes struggle with. I might have a boundary, but then you always find those people who try to push your boundaries. So they know that you've set a boundary, but they're going to try and push them by maybe asking for a small favor, or asking that just this once, put it in a nice, sugar-coated way. But it's very important that you learn to say no. Because like I said earlier, if let's say someone asked me that, may you please just extend your time before you log off on Friday evening, just by 30 minutes just for you to finish this thing. If on one day I say, okay, fine, I can do it, already the line has been crossed, and it's going to be hard to come back from that, because they're always going to use that as a reference point to say, on such and such a day, it wasn't a problem for you to do ABCD, so why is it suddenly a problem now? So it's important that even when you sympathize and you empathize and someone is really putting pressure on you to do that, learn to say no and learn to stick to your own boundaries that you have set for other people. And then number three, safeguard your spaces, which is what I did with my Instagram account. So guard your space, guard your privacy, do what you can to make sure that you limit the access that people have to you. And for me, it was actually turning my Instagram account back to a private account, because I just couldn't handle, one, the fact that someone had impersonated me, and two, the fact that all these people who I've never met in my life suddenly have information to my pictures, suddenly know the people who are in my life, people who haven't even signed up for this YouTube live. Now they are known by people, and people have access to those pictures as well. So that is how I safeguarded my privacy and set my boundary in that way. In some spaces, it can be like putting passwords on your phone. It can be taking those things that are important to you and locking them away. There's so many ways to safeguard your privacy and maintain those boundaries, depending on the situation and the context of the relationship. But just make an effort to make sure that you safeguard your space so that it's harder for anyone to try and break those boundaries. And finally, number four, get help, get assistance. So sometimes it can be hard to maintain or even set boundaries. I see it a lot, especially as we grow up and we start adulting. I've heard a lot of people on social media complain about maybe they go out and they start working, they start earning money, and suddenly family members are always on their neck demanding certain things, and they'll say things like we took you through school, or can't you see your little brothers and sisters. So it can be hard to set boundaries, especially with elderly people. And I've particularly heard someone saying that for them, they are a married couple, right, and they don't have kids, and they find family members asking for money and then referencing, saying that you guys have good jobs, what do you use the money for since you don't have kids? So may we please have money, So it can be hard sometimes to maintain boundaries, especially if there's a relationship that you're trying to preserve, a familial relationship that you're trying to preserve, especially with family. So I think in that case, it's very important to have someone that you can go to, someone that you can bring in, sort of mediate between the two parties and help you set those boundaries. Because I assure you that letting go of the boundaries is not the way to deal with people who fail to respect your boundaries, but it's getting someone who can help you enforce those boundaries, to set them and to enforce them. That will definitely help. So identify someone that you can trust, someone who can be assertive on your behalf, and someone who can help you to maintain and preserve those boundaries. So yeah, these are, you know, very easy steps to take to assert and to maintain and to enforce your own boundaries. But I think it's important for me to say before I close off that as much as you want people to respect your boundaries, it's very important that you also respect people's boundaries. So read the room, you know, take cues from people. If you see that people are not inviting you into their lives as much as you'd want to, step back and respect that boundary. If you say something and you can see that the person is not comfortable with it, apologize and maybe, you know, keep away from saying those things. If you like playing a certain way with a certain person and you see that they're not comfortable with it, you know, it's like take a step back and respect people's boundaries even if you don't understand them, right? So sometimes someone can have a boundary that you would never see it because you don't think there's anything wrong with people coming into that part of your life. But please respect people's boundaries even if you don't understand them. You don't have to understand someone to, you know, give them that you respect that they deserve. As long as someone has communicated that this is the line that they have in their lives, respect it, and I'm pretty sure that they'll respect yours too. Thank you for tuning in. As always, let's have a conversation. Has anyone stepped on your toes before? Have you had troubles enforcing boundaries? Just let's talk about it in the comment section. And also please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys again next time.